It is perhaps the most baffling and honestly the most consequential corporate fumble in the history of modern technology. We are talking about a trillion-dollar blind spot. One single company effectively invented the entire modern digital world. They paid for all the research, built the prototypes, and then just handed the keys over to their competitors for absolutely nothing. December 1979, a 24-year-old Steve Jobs steps inside a highly secretive research facility out in California for a scheduled tour. Now, Xerox's venture capital arm had recently invested in Apple, and in exchange for that cash, Jobs was granted access to see exactly what the researchers behind these closed doors were working on. He was about to witness a technological leap that would literally change human history. As the researchers sat him down in front of a screen displaying a graphical user interface and a physical mouse, Jobs went absolutely berserk. He started jumping around the room, literally shouting, "Why isn't Xerox marketing this? You could blow everybody away." He saw an immediate goldmine, a total revolution in how humans interact with machines that the creators themselves were just completely ignoring. So to understand how they got to that crazy moment, we have to rewind a bit to 1970. Xerox, a company famous at the time for making paper copiers, set up this unique California lab with an unprecedented blank check. They called it PARC, the Palo Alto Research Center, and they gave these brilliant minds exactly one instruction: invent the future. That's it. There were no deadlines, there were no product requirements, just pure, unadulterated innovation. And what is truly staggering here is the sheer speed of their success. Within just 3 years, by 1973, the folks at PARC delivered beyond anyone's wildest imagination. They invented the graphical user interface. They built the Xerox Alto computer. They invented Ethernet networking. And hey, they even invented the laser printer. They were building the entire foundation of modern computing, while the rest of the world was literally still feeding paper punch cards into massive, room-sized mainframes. Take the 1973 Xerox Alto. This was effectively the very first personal computer that actually operated like the devices you and I use today. It featured a physical mouse, a bitmapped display, overlapping windows you could just drag and drop around the screen, and even cut and paste functionality. In 1973, it was decades ahead of its time. But, here's where the story takes a sharp turn, and it was entirely driven by a massive 3,000-mile cultural gap. On the West Coast, you had these brilliant researchers who the executives honestly viewed as just a bunch of hippies playing with screens, busy inventing the digital future. Meanwhile, on the East Coast, in New York, you had corporate executives who were hyper-focused on one thing and one thing only: selling toner and paper copiers. Which brings us to the ultimate billion-dollar question. Why on earth did headquarters kill every single one of these inventions? Because, make no mistake, every single time PARC tried to take these brilliant, fully working prototypes and turn them into consumer products, the suits in New York immediately slammed the brakes on it. And the reason? A paperless, digital office directly threatened their core business. This was Xerox's fatal blind spot. They were utterly terrified that interconnected, digital screens would destroy their highly profitable copier monopoly. Think about it from their perspective. They made all their money selling toner and paper. Why on earth would they ever sell a machine that eliminated the need for toner and paper? Now, they did eventually try to release one commercial product based on PARC's work, the Xerox Star, which launched in 1981. It had the graphical interface, the mouse, Ethernet, the laser printer, the whole shebang, the complete office of the future. But it came with an absolutely absurd price tag of $16,595 per workstation. If you wanted a basic office setup, you were looking at over $100,000. It was completely doomed to fail from the start, and it only sold a measly 25,000 units. This massive, stubborn misstep left the door wide open for outsiders to swoop right in. Remember that 1979 tour? Step 1, Steve Jobs tours PARC. Step 2, within a matter of days, he redirects Apple's entire product strategy toward visual computing, entirely based on what he saw in that room. Step 3, the Apple Mac launches in 1984. Now, it wasn't a direct one-to-one clone. Apple added the drop-down menu bar, smooth drag and drop, and the famous trash can icon. But Jobs essentially took the unmistakable DNA of PARC's visual computer and actually brought it to the masses. And of course, the rest of the industry was incredibly quick to follow suit. After the Mac hit the market in '84, Microsoft saw the exact same potential and shipped Windows 1.0 just a year later. By 1990, Windows 3.0 practically owned the entire computing market.
Nearly every PC in the world was suddenly running a graphical interface that descended directly from what those researchers at Xerox invented way back in 1973.
Naturally, the researchers at PARC had to sit there and watch all of this happen from the sidelines, and that triggered a devastating mass exodus of immensely frustrated talent. PARC effectively became a free talent factory for all of Xerox's future competitors. Alan Kay left for Atari and then Apple. Charles Simonyi went to Microsoft and created Word and Excel. Robert Metcalfe left to found the massive networking empire 3Com. And Larry Tesler, the very guy who demonstrated the Alto to Steve Jobs in the first place, he joined Apple and spent 17 years developing their software. Bob Taylor, the man who actually ran PARC's computer science lab during those golden years, delivered this incredibly blunt, tragic summary of the whole situation. He said, and I quote, "Xerox could have owned the entire computer industry. They had the technology, the talent, and a 5-year head start. They just didn't want it." The real-world cost of that refusal is just staggering to think about. $1 trillion. That is the estimated total market value of the technologies born inside the walls of PARC. These were the exact inventions that fueled the rise of the most valuable company in history in Apple. They allowed Microsoft to dominate the globe for 2 decades. They allowed Cisco to build a worldwide networking empire. And what happened to Xerox? Well, they stubbornly clung to their precious copiers. Contrast that trillion-dollar missed opportunity with their grim reality. By 2002, they were teetering on the edge of bankruptcy. Their stock completely crashed, plummeting from a peak value of $60 a share all the way down to just $4. Fast forward to 2023, and Xerox finally washed their hands of the lab altogether, simply donating PARC to SRI International. The famous building still stands there today in Palo Alto, but it really serves as a physical monument to history's most spectacular failure to commercialize innovation. Because when you really think about it, every single mouse click, every dragged window, and every printed page from your laptop is PARC. The only company that didn't benefit was the one that paid for it all.